I'm Julianna. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into the world of clarinet etude books, specifically focusing on the best options for beginners. Whether you're just starting out on clarinet, looking to improve your skills, or you're a new clarinet teacher, these books are some good options for beginning clarinetists. Before we dive in, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on one of my videos. In the upcoming weeks, I'm planning to do the best etude/method books for intermediate and advanced players. So if that's something that interests you, be sure to like and subscribe. Of course, here are the video chapters for this video, so you can skip around to the parts that interest you the most. And I'll also link all of the books down in the description box below. These are all method/etude books I've been using over the last 20 years with my students. I'll go through each book and also give you sort of a rundown of the highlights of each book and what some maybe things to look out for in each book as well. So let's dive into it. First up, we have the Rubank Elementary Method for Clarinet. And this is a very standard book, and I think that everyone should go through this book. My clarinet teacher from college, he says this is a must for everyone to learn. First things first, so they have the Alfred system clarinet fingerings on here. Most everyone will use this BAME system. I don't know if you can see that BAME system clarinet fingering chart. First things first, for a beginner, this is a very complicated diagram. I feel like you need sort of a master's degree to understand it. So I actually prefer a different fingering chart that I work with my students. That's more of a diagram of the fingerings instead of using this chart to figure out what fingering you're going to use. So if you're going to be using this book, I wouldn't recommend using this fingering chart for beginners just for that reason. It's pretty complicated. But you can see it starts pretty easy enough down here. The one thing I will say, as you flip through this book and you get to like lesson 14, it starts to get, in my opinion, complicated for beginning clarinetists right from the beginning, especially if they're moving ahead quickly. So just know that about this book. I feel like it leaps ahead in skill level a little too quickly, in my opinion, at least in my experience. But yeah, you can see through here, working through 6/8 meter, and then by lesson 26, we're working with 16th notes right there. So to me, that's pretty advanced for a beginning method book, but again, it just depends on the student. Next up is Fun with Fundamentals. I actually used this when I was younger. I have my little practice chart right there. But what I like about this book is the fingering chart right here. It's more of a picture diagram, which I think beginners respond to better than trying to figure out from a diagram. We have some basic long tone exercises, learning the C scale drills in the beginning. And then as we move forward in this book, they have like etudes right there. Now, when we get to here and they have the scales spelled out with the octaves on top of each other, it can be really confusing for beginners to read. So for that reason, I probably would skip this exercise at the very beginning, working with a beginning student. And as you can see, it goes over the break pretty soon towards the beginning of this book. So not perfect, but it's a good beginning book. And then by page 15, you know, you're working with chromatic scale. We have 80 Graded Studies for Clarinet. This is book 1 by John Davies and Paul Harris. I like to use this as a companion book to the Rubank Etude book, but what I like about this book is that it has a bunch of small melodies, or, you know, just sort of truncated etudes, as you see here. And what I like about this, we're not moving in across the break until exercise 11 right here. And as you can see, it moves pretty fast with movement from the going into more complicated rhythms, and also going over the break. Let's see, like in this number 17, and then it gets a little more complex as we move through here. Exercise 28, we're working with dotted 16th note rhythms, and yeah, it gets more complicated as you go through the book. So I would probably use this as a companion etude book to the Rubank method book if you're looking for something to increase your skill level. Next up is the first book of practical studies for clarinet by Nilu Hubby. And as we go through this book, you can see the very first page is just scale exercises, and they're moving you through major scale exercises, then scales in thirds, and then broken chords down here, which for a beginner is pretty advanced, I would say. So you might want to use this for a beginner that's been playing, you know, maybe a year or so. And then we have some chromatic studies, and also some etudes as we move through the book, working on different scales. So we have G major here, and advancing through the major scales as we go through the book, and just some little exercises or etudes. But yeah, above the break exercises, page 13. So this would be for a more advanced beginning student, in my opinion. Next up is Now Go Home and Practice. So this etude book, I would say, is probably better used in band or group ensembles. But they have a really nice fingering chart here, and then they go through what all of this music theory means in the beginning, how to use your foot when you're tapping. So I think that's really helpful, what the treble sign looks like, bass clef, percussion clef, all those things. And we're moving through the book, and as you can see, it's pretty, I guess, more on the simple side, I would say. But they have fun little activities you can do so your students don't get bored and moving through it. So it's not going to make you advance too far, but at least it will get you playing. So that's what I like about this book, is how it breaks down all of the concepts, especially for like a new beginning clarinetist. Modern Course for the Clarinet by James Collis, Book 1. I love this series of books. He has Book 1 through Book 6. These etude books are becoming increasingly harder to find, but I will definitely link to where I found this one. I love these as companion exercises to like a traditional method book like the Rubank. And as you can see, it's just short little fun, you know, songs for the kids or your students to move through, or yourself to move through. Doesn't take a lot of time, but it's staying sort of in the lower register of the clarinet, which is great. You get to move through all these songs. Here we're moving up into the upper register, but these are easier notes to get out for a beginning clarinetist. I like playing long B or long C. Yeah, these are just fun little etudes, pleasant songs that most people know. And yeah, this is something I always have my students play. My teachers always had me play out of these books growing up, and yeah, they're fantastic. Moving on to more music theory based books. This is the Clarinet Note Speller. This is a great book. It takes you through fingerings at the beginning, and then it has you name the note name here, and then put the fingering, fill out the fingering. So it has like a little template here where you fill out the fingerings. You get to go through sort of what the bar symbols are, how to make a treble clef, things like that. And they're just fun little lessons that take you through. Of course, anytime you're working with like a theory book, it's probably best to be working with a teacher, either a private clarinet teacher or your band director, just to make sure your work is correct. But yeah, this is a great little book. Next up is Improve Your Sight Reading by Paul Harris. This is book 1 through 3, but his series goes, I think, all the way up through 6 through 9, I think, or 7 through 9. This is a great little series of theory books. It takes you through all different exercises, and it also has an audio version that you can listen to help with the other parts of this book in terms of theory. If you've used any of these books or have any other favorites, please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about your experiences and recommendations. And hey, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your fellow clarinetists. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Happy practicing, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.